Lesson 12 for March 14 to 20, From North and South to the Beautiful Land. Read by Dr. Percy Harrold. Sunday, March 15, Prophecies about Persia and Greece. Question. Read Daniel chapter 11, verses 1 to 4. What do we see here that reminds us of some of the previous prophecies we have seen in Daniel? Daniel 11, beginning at verse 1. Also, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I, stood up to confirm and strengthen him. And now I will tell you the truth. Behold, 3 more kings will arise in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than them all. By his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Greece. Then a mighty king shall arise, who shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he has arisen, his kingdom shall be broken up and divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, but not among his posterity, nor according to his dominion with which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be uprooted, even for others besides these. Gabriel tells Daniel that 3 kings will still rise from Persia. They will be followed by the 4th king, who will be the richest one of all and will provoke the Greeks. After Cyrus, 3 successive kings exert dominion over Persia: Cambyses from 530 to 522 BC, the false Smerdis just for 522 BC, and Darius I from 522 to 486 BC. The 4th king is Xerxes, mentioned in the book of Esther as Ahasuerus. He is very wealthy, and marshals a vast army to invade Greece as predicted in the prophecy. But, in spite of his power, he is repelled by a smaller force of valiant Greek soldiers. Let's read Esther chapter 1, verses 1 to 7. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this was the Ahasuerus who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. In those days, when King Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan the citadel, that in the 3rd year of his reign he made a feast for all his officials and servants, the powers of Persia and Media, the nobles and the princes of the provinces being before him, when he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the splendour of his excellent majesty for many days, 180 days in all. And, when these days were completed, the king made a feast lasting 7 days for all the people who were present in Shushan the citadel, from great to small, in the court of the garden of the king's palace. There were white and blue linen curtains fastened with cords of fine linen and purple on silver rods and marble pillars, and the couches were of gold and silver on a mosaic pavement of alabaster, turquoise, and white and black marble. And they served drinks in golden vessels, each vessel being different from the other, with royal wine in abundance, according to the generosity of the king. It's not difficult to recognize Alexander the Great as the mighty king who arises in chapter 11 of Daniel, verse 3, and who becomes the absolute ruler of the ancient world. He died at the age of 32 without leaving an heir to rule the empire. So the kingdom was divided among his 4 generals: Seleucus over Syria and Mesopotamia, Ptolemy over Egypt, Lysimachus over Thrace and portions of Asia Minor, and Cassander over Macedonia and Greece. Question. Compare Daniel 11, verses 2 to 4, with chapter 8, verses 3 to 8, and verses 20 to 22. How do these texts help identify Alexander as the power here? Daniel 11 and verses 2 to 4. And now I will tell you the truth. Behold, 3 more kings will arise in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than them all. By his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Greece. Then a mighty king shall arise, who shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he has arisen, his kingdom shall be broken up and divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, but not among his posterity, nor according to his dominion with which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be uprooted, even for others besides these. And chapter 8, verses 3 to 8. Then I lifted my eyes and saw, and there standing beside the river was a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher one came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, and southward, so that no animal could withstand him, nor was there any that could deliver from his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, suddenly a male goat came from the west across the surface of the whole earth without touching the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Then he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before or beside the river, and ran at him with furious power. And I saw him confronting the ram. He was moved with rage against him, attacked the ram, and broke his 2 horns. There was no power in the ram to withstand him, but he cast him down to the ground and trampled him, and there was no one that could deliver the ram from his hand. Therefore the male goat grew very great. But when he became strong, the large horn was broken, and in place of it 4 notable ones came up toward the 4 winds of heaven. And Daniel 8, verses 20 to 22, the ram which you saw having the 2 horns, they are the kings of Media and Persia, and the male goat is the kingdom of Greece. The large horn that is between its eyes is the first king. As for the broken horn and the 4 that stood up in its place, 4 kingdoms shall arise out of that nation, but not with its power. What can we learn from this assortment of names, dates, places, and historical events? First, we learn that the prophecy is fulfilled as predicted by the divine messenger. God's word never fails. Second, God is the Lord of history. We may get the impression that the succession of political powers, leaders, and kingdoms is propelled by the ambition of emperors, dictators, and politicians of all stripes. However, the Bible reveals that God is in ultimate control and will move the wheel of history according to his divine purpose, which ultimately will lead to the eradication of evil and the establishment of God's eternal kingdom. This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind and Hearing Impaired, Christian Record Services for the Blind, the Sabbath School Department, and Hope Channel. You can also listen on the official Sabbath School 4 app and the Apple iTunes app, Sabbath School with Percy Harrold. Remember, God is always faithful.